What's going on, everybody? This is Zeno here, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Elementalist using Brutus's Lead Sprinkler. The name of the character is Xeno Penetration, and that's the theme of the build. The entirety of this build is built around the, of course, Brutus's Lead Sprinkler. It is a weapon that you stack strength to get fire damage to attacks. I've made multiple guides on how to use this weapon now, so you should not be surprised if you're seeing it here, but that's the basis of it. And we're going to be stacking Fire Pen specifically, starting with the gem. So the gem itself will yield 37% Fire Pen, and I'm going to be using Shroud of the Lightless, which gives level 20 Elemental Penetration as well. Level 20 Elemental Penetration is the same as Fire Pen, except it applies to all three elements. Cold, you'll get 37, and lightning you'll get 37, which I won't be using because I will have Avatar of Fire using Zoph's Blood. Zoph's Blood will also give me another 10 Fire Pen, and we get 10% increased strength, which is perfect for this build. This like screams this is Chieftain the Amulet. I don't know what else I could say about it, but it is Chieftain the Amulet. But you do get AOF, so we don't need the Shroud of the Lightless's Cold or Lightning. We're just going to utilize it for its Fire Pen, which is also the same of that as the gem, 37 all. So let's start adding up the amount of penetration we have here, and then I'll explain the build skill gem I plan on using, which I am using. What level I'm at right now, I'm not even in maps. I just hit Act 6. However, a lot of people are asking about this YouTube video, and this will be the theory craft of it, not the build showcase. This is the theory craft of it. I guess I could show you guys where I'm at in Act 6 if you want to see how it's fundamentally working. But this is 100% theory. So let's add 37 right here from Fire Pen, and we know Shroud of the Lightless also gives me another 37. And between the two of those, monsters, assuming their resistance cap without any maximum fire res, will now have 1% resistance. Now, penetration is a little bit different than reduction. So flammability here. Flammability reduces fire resistance. Right here, reduces. That minus sign is reducing. And reducing does not do the same thing as pen. If the monster has 75 resistance or less, reduction, reducing fire res, and penetrating fire res are one and the same. They do the same thing. If the monster has 76 or anything greater than 75 fire res, I should say, then reduction and penetration do not do the same thing. Assuming we have, let's say, 50% reduced versus 50% pen, where I'm going to show you the difference. If a monster has 100 fire res, the cap we know is 75, but they have 100 fire res. Reduction will minus 50. The monster now has 50 fire res. However, with penetration, the monster has 100 fire res. Penetration does not care. Every single monster will start at their maximum resistance. That is how penetration is set to code. So the monster's resistance cap is 75, and we minus 50 fire pen, and now the monster has 25 remaining fire res. So reduction is only good when the monster is below 75. 75 or less. Now when you're in endgame mapping, monsters are heavily resistant and usually overcapped with res, depending on their base type, map rolls, anything like that. Elemental equilibrium, we could go down that route forever. So reduction is, generally speaking, it falls off hard. It's specifically against bosses too. It doesn't do anything against bosses. Bosses get destroyed by pen. Let's go back to counting up how much we have. So we have 37 from the gem, right here from Fire Pen Gem. We have 37 from Shroud of the Lightless, and we're going to use Elementalist. So the Elementalist, this is where the first part of her build comes into play here. We get 75 AoE for 5 seconds, and then the other 5 seconds during 10, you get 75 WED, or just elemental damage, so it works for spells. So it's damage or AoE, both of which are great for bossing and clearing. So this is never bad. It's just situational. When you get the AoE, it's great for clear, you know? When you get the WED, it's awesome for bossing. But getting AoE against the boss is okay, and getting extra damage against, maybe a rare mob with a discipline pack, it might help you. Mastermind of Discord. So we're going to put on Herald of Ash, get our Herald of Ash bonus damage, and then we get 25 Fire Pen. So let's add that to the bank. Another 25 Fire Pen. So monsters now have minus 99 Fire Res, because this is Pen, this is not reduction. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to use Zolf's Blood, the necklace. That has 10 Fire Pen on it. In my skill tree here, I connected the starting section of the Templar using, what's it called? Efficient Training. I already have this done, in fact. With efficient training in here, this becomes strength. All this pathing here is strength. This pathing here entirely is strength. And this is 20 strength as well. So this is huge. This gives elemental damage and mana. We'll go into mana in the later tutorial of this build. But with pure talent, if you are connected to the starter portion of a tree, you get this benefit. And every single one of my Brutus's Lead Sprinkler builds most likely will be using pure talent. I haven't even unlocked the shadow one. I've used pure talent now probably like 15 times. I'm not exaggerating. And the shadow part of the tree is base crit. And when I go around to playing assassin eventually, we're going to get base crit wed, and it's going to be juicy as hell, and this will all be strength. We can't wait. Or this will be strength. That's my pathing out. For here, being connected to the Templar, we end up getting 5 pen. So Templar is damage penetrates 5 pen, and with that it's strength, elemental damage, mana, and an int node. I'm running Enfeeble. Enfeeble has a very high int requirement. It's like 150 nearly, 155. But that's another 5 pen to add to the list, and I currently have that on my character. The next bit of pen is coming from a flask. So let's explain this. This is a little bit of a tricky one to understand, so I will explain it. If you're intermediate play by now, you probably have heard of Wise Oak, and you're probably running in a Pathfinder build. For an Elementalist, it's crazy. During this flask effect, 10% reduced damage taken of each element for which your uncapped elemental resistance is lowest. During flask effect, damage penetrates 15% up to 15% resistance of each element for which your uncapped elemental resistance is highest. So what that means is when we open up my tree here, it looks at the number in the parentheses, okay? So currently my cold res is highest, so that is what I get, because for highest we get penetration. So I would get 15 cold pen. That's not good for my build right now. So you have to make sure your fire is always your highest, so you could get 15 fire pen. And whichever is your lowest, you take 10% reduced damage from. So if you're worried about shocks, make sure your lightning res is the lowest. That's the easiest way to play Wise Oak for a Brutus's Lead Sprinkler. Get high fire, and then you can get lower lightning. Now remember, your resistances have to be capped still. So 75 lightning and 76 fire would still work. That's a little of a sketch. Now the most overpowered thing about this flask is if your resistances are all the same, nothing is high and nothing is low. They're both high and low. It gets tagged as both. So you take 10% reduced damage from all 3 elements and get 15% all pen. That is incredible, and if you could pull that off, that's just... Where's that meme? Where's the meme of the guy doing this? I saw it on Reddit once. I'm going to do it for you. That's when you cap all your reses at the same. Wise Oak is ridiculous, like Wild Strike, for example, would be crazy with that. So that's another 15 pen. Let's add that to the list. And let's see, there's another 8 pen which I get from Lava Lash right down here in the tree. So we'll add 8 more. The only other way I could get any types of fire pen is if I somehow, some way can make a janky pathing to pick up 6 here, which is not happening, or 5 here, which is not going to happen. And then the last one is Watcher's Eye while wearing Anger. I think you get up to 15. This is like... I'm not even gonna... If you're an expert Standard League player and you can have a bunch of money, this is the tip-top, most expensive thing that you could get for this build. And you end up getting 6% life, 6% mana. This has 3 modifiers if it's Uber Elder in Shaper. This has to be updated. It's 2 for regular Elder. And then Anger, Fire Penetration. Damage penetrates up to 15 Fire Pen when affected by Anger. So it's a great aura to put on. It gives you extra damage as fire. and you get another 15 pen. So if you were to play this exact skill tree with that Watcher's Eye, it would be 152 fire pen, which is more than double the maximum monster resistance. Unless, of course, they have, you know, some type of effect where they get higher than 75, which is very rare. It's just absurd. That's with a Watcher's Eye, mind you. 137 without Watcher's Eye. It's still crazy. Anyone can afford a Wise Oak with enough time. Lava Lashes on the tree. Pure Talent. I think people can afford that over time, especially in softcore. That's just the first two ascendancies. Let's talk about the last two. So the last two ascendancies here, we go with Liege of Primordial. And this makes it so my golems are immune to elemental damage. And I do plan on getting +2 to golem. So, and I'm also going to use Fire, Lightning, and Ice Golem. So I'll use one of each to be immune to Chill, Frozen, Ignite, and Shock. I think that's huge. Now all I need is a Bleed Removal Flask. I don't need to worry about Freeze, Chill, Shock Removal Flask. That's amazing. It's just like, don't even have to think about it. Not to mention my Elemental Golems are immune to elemental damage. So they act as like orbitals. They just absorb spell damage. Any like projectile type spell damage that's flung at me they just absorb it. However, they could still be chained off of, and I could still receive some damage, so that is something to consider. So chain maps are a little deadly for me, and I may have to consider avoiding them because they'll be immune, but I won't. So if it's an AoE projectile, I could get shotgunned. So that is the downside to this, but no, just don't run multi-proj. I could be immune to Elemental Reflect and get some Leech, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't really care. I get Leech from Pure Talent. So Pure Talent, when you're connected to Duelist, you get Leech. When you're connected to Marauder, you get AoE. Let's start talking AoE. So I get 15 AoE here when you're connected using Pure Talent. If you would like to read the gem for the sake of the gem. The very second node, Marauder melee skills have 15% increased area of effect. So when we connect in our tree, we get 15 AoE here. We get 26 AoE here, 26 AoE here, and we get another 75 for being an Elementalist half of the time. And the last bit of AoE we get has 20 strength attached to it, and that's Master of the Arena. So we'll have a ton of AoE, which means... That's right, we Cyclone, boys. We spin into winning. So it's ethical, it works. Pure Talent as a witch gives you mana regen. I'm currently using Praxis to sustain it. However, I think I'll be in a good position because mana regen, mana. I get mana regen here for Pure Talent, so this node isn't dead to me anymore. I just got a little bit more here. I think I'm going to be fine in terms of mana. I'm not too worried about it. I'm kind of happy about this. This is interesting. You know, the elemental attack build is functioning well. I use Elemental Overload. This node is worth it if you can get a shield. Like, I think you were stuck using Lycosidae in this build. Lycosidae makes it so my hits cannot be evaded, which means I don't have to play the accuracy game. I don't need to get any accuracy suffices on anything. And now I can proc Elemental Overload. The reason why you don't pick up Resolute Technique is because Resolute Technique makes it so your hits can never crit. Meaning your crit chance equals false. 0. With that said, you need to crit in order to proc Elemental Overload. Lycosidae does not remove your crit chance, but it does give you the hits can't be evaded, and because of that, they function well together. It's also 60 base life, and the armor is whatever. It does have high block chance, up to 31, so this is something I'm going to, this is something I'm probably going to utilize. And it also gives you extra cold damage to your counterattacks. So with the Avatar Fire, half of that will go to my counterattacks. Pretty good, man. We can use Reckoning now. Hey. But Elemental Overload should stay up 100% of the time late game. You know, all you need to do is have some kind of proc. Orbistorms or whatever the hell else you want to use. I've thought about Elemental Equilibrium in this build because it is minus 50 resistance. It is not pen. It is reduction. And the only way we could pull this off is if we're not using Zoph's Blood and we use Phytolith's Spike in our offhand. So we would hit with Brutus's Lead Sprinkler, and then when we'd spin around, we'd hit with Fiddleitis' Spike, dealing pure lightning damage. It doesn't have any physical damage, so Herald of Ash won't punish us either. And then you spin around again, and now that they took lightning damage, that 50% reduced, you smack them with that BLS, and it's just chunk. If you decide to do that route, you don't have to pick up the +2 Golem node. Instead, you can go Shock Spread, because now you're doing fire and lightning, and that lightning damage could shock, always at 1.2. That is an interesting function. I just feel like this is more defensive. So I went the defensive hardcore route. If you want to get that extra shock at 1.2 with EE, you cannot wear Zoph's Blood because it turns all damage to fire. So you have to avoid Zoph's Blood, so you would have to instead use a Shaper crafted amulet. The stuff I'm explaining now is super endgame and a lot of theory involved with that. A Shaper crafted amulet can have attribute percent similar to that of Zoph's, and it can have, accuracy, so you don't have to use Lycosidae. This is like endgame. You can also have up to, 58 strength from an essence craft, 30 all attributes, I believe, is the highest. I mean, you can get over 120, I think, strength right now on an amulet if you craft it proper. So that is a true standardly crafting meta if you want to do that. It's an interesting thought, but I'm just going to go Avatar Fire from Zoph's Blood and pick up 2 Golems. That's just a lot easier and way less of a nightmare. That's an alternative option you can do for this build. What else do I have to say about it? I should be pretty tanky. My life percent is 227%. I only have 28% mana in this build, but I think I'll have enough mana sustain, because if I get my open prefixes, if I get one piece of gear with high mana, I think we're good. Praxis is doing -8 right now, so my mana cost is 30. It's still pretty damn high. So Praxis's utility will be running out soon because of how big the mana cost gets, and I am 6-linked. I will be taking off Onslaught, obviously, when I put on my Shroud of the Lightless. I already own one. And I have a couple other pieces of gear because every single one of my builds is Brutus's Lead Sprinkler. So I actually have some hand-me-downs for this character, no prob. If you guys would like to have any other questions about this build, the links down below, you will see a profile to my character page. And you could take a look at any of my characters at any point in time, and you could just copy them word for word. Understand, sometimes my tree will have things for leveling, and sometimes it will have it in my endgame build. So I can't promise you what you see is going to be perfect. However, I will put this prototype skill tree that I have planned. I will shorten this link and have it in the description down below. So anytime on any of these videos, if I forget to put that down there, please let me know. Also, I stream these live on Twitch, so everything you're seeing here right now is also streamed live. If you'd like to come by and ask me any questions, I will always be on in my platform, waiting to answer them for you. With that said, I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to this long theorycraft explanation of the Elementalist. I did promise a little bit of endgame playstyle. My resistances are a little bit under cap, and I don't have my Wise Oak yet. I'm about to swap over and pick that up. Here is, I'll just show you guys a quick instance of this. I'm currently in Act 6. I got so lucky on my glove enchant. I got Fury. You see that thing that's spinning around everywhere? That is Fury, and it scales off of fire damage. Yes, tell it, witch. Everything dies. So edgy. This is the Hot Topic build, TM. Have you ever seen an Elementalist with Cyclone? If not, this is it. This is the build for you. Look at those Furies flying around. I'm rocking Meginord's Vice for leveling. It's probably the best pair of gloves for leveling. And then you can take these off later on for an attack speed, high strength, Essence Craft pair of gloves. Attack speed is mandatory late game. I don't have Lycosidae yet. I don't have enough money for it. And I don't have Zoph's Blood yet. I don't have enough money for it. So the Shroud of the Lightless will be carrying this build entirely until I have those items. And those items are just going to boost Shroud even harder. I'm so excited I get to double down on Pen. And I wanted to play a skill that did not need that many support gems to pull it off. I think Cyclone's perfect for the bill because of the amount of AoE mana I get. I think Cyclone might just be the ticket we need. Doing pretty good damage. I mean, Brutus's Lead Sprinkler, it's pretty hard to not do good damage with this item. And if you guys have any critiques or anything you want to ask, I'm only level 48. Ooh, that means I get to put on a bunch of new gear. With that said, I'm going to go do that. And I hope to release a new video of this soon. And again, I'm just going to push. All of my characters are still alive. I'm going to do this thing where I level up a new character when I feel like the character I'm on needs gear. However, most of the gear I share, so Shroud of the Lightless I can use in a couple different builds, and I think it was a good investment overall for BLS. It's just not good for a Juggernaut because Juggernaut does not need a chest piece that has evasion in ES. The Juggernaut needs a 6-link pure armor astral plate. Like, yes please, thank you. So that's that. And with that said, the Shroud of the Lightless also will give me mana. I forgot to mention that. I get mana per Abyss Jewel. This will be an Abyss Jewel heavy build. So we're going to be picking up those in due time. Especially Onslaught. Getting Onslaught on your Abyss Jewel is mandatory for attack builds. Damn, I just tried to go to Act 2. What a realization. At this point in time, I'm just rambling. So, again, if you guys want to see or ask any questions about where I'm at right now in the build, stop by to my live stream and I'll be glad to answer them for you. I'm Zeno. Thanks for watching. I'm out.